Anybody sleepy? This is a great time of day or night to talk about sleep because it's very present, right? It's an experience. It's not like 9 in the morning after 2 cups of coffee. Those audiences aren't very much fun. But this is a palpable experience for us, right? So one of the themes in my presentations is about making friends with sleep, befriending sleep, and we'll actually talk about falling back in love with sleep. Because we're living in an age where, on the one hand, we battle sleeplessness, we battle insomnia by night, and then we go to war with sleepiness by day. It's not a surprise to me that so many people have trouble sleeping, given the way they treat sleep during the day. When sleepiness shows up during the day, they go to battle with it. So I just want to say, as we're talking about this, be mindful of your sleepiness. And one thing I want to suggest is that you don't have to fight it. That you can make friends with it. That it can sit alongside of your waking. It can coexist with focus. Many of us have been taught that sleep and waking are opposite, even mutually exclusive experiences. There's just no truth to that. We also tend to devalue sleep, and this is something probably that you're all aware of. We look at sleep as being a servant of waking life. We look at sleep as being subservient to waking life. So if you read about sleep anywhere, for example, you'll come across many really interesting lists of good reasons to sleep. And things like sleep promotes immunity, it promotes your health. Sleep promotes positive memory. Sleep helps us regulate our moods. Sleep helps us with our parents, with our energy. It goes on and on and on. All these things are true, but we tend to lean in the direction of thinking that the only reason we need sleep is so that we can be better at waking. This is a kind of bias that I think is really important to understand. Many of us remember Copernicus from school. Remember Copernicus, who suggested that maybe planet Earth was not the center of the universe, and he nearly lost his head. We live in a pre-Copernican era with regard to consciousness. Most of us, most of the world believes that waking consciousness, ordinary waking consciousness, is the key consciousness. It's the gold standard for consciousness. And everything else, these transitional states of consciousness, altered states of consciousness, and certainly sleeping and dreaming are seen as being secondary, subservient to. There's a bias against these kinds of consciousness. You can read every textbook ever written about sleep, and it's not going to help you sleep. The big problem with science and medicine is we've learned a tremendous amount about sleep as it expresses in the body and in the brain, but we've forgotten about the sleeper. We've forgotten about the human being, the person who does the sleeping. And that's so much more a psychological and a spiritual experience than it is a medical one. It's a question of where do we go when we go to sleep? Where's the part of me that I call I, my sense of identity? Is it my ego, my deeper self? Where do I go when I go to sleep? And so most people, as they're going to sleep, they sit on the edge of the bed and they set the alarm clock. And so what they're doing there is they're immediately setting a limit on their sleep. They're going into sleep. Imagine setting an alarm, say for 10 minutes when you sit down to dinner. You're going to give yourself 10 minutes, the alarm goes off, you're done. Or you can imagine other pleasurable activities, if you will. You're going to set an alarm, it goes off, and you're done. So we have this notion that we have to contain, we have to control, demarcate, we have to contain sleep within waking. We set the boundaries. We set the boundary in terms of when we're going to sleep and in terms of when we're going to wake up. Okay? So from the start, sleep is contained. We get into bed, we pull up the covers, we turn out the light, and then it's so interesting to ask yourself, where do you go when you go to sleep? Most people go to, what am I going to wear in the morning? Is there enough milk for the kids? Is there gas in the car? I got that appointment tomorrow. Okay. Most people don't go to sleep. they actually jump ahead to the shoreline of tomorrow morning's awakening. I think of the descent into sleep as a descent into this really sweet, dark waters. The sea of sleep is what I refer to it as. This is sort of like taking an overnight vacation, but instead of focusing on enjoying it, you're spending the entire overnight vacation thinking about what you're going to do when you get back home in the morning. So maybe tonight, you could do something a little differently. And this is tricky, but I'm going to suggest that keep your third eye open when you go to sleep. Not your sensory eyes, of course, not your worldly eyes, but this inner eye. And the more you cultivate spiritual practice, the more clear your inner vision becomes with that eye. It's a natural part of spiritual development. And although most of us have come to believe that we can't experience sleep, we see sleep as unconsciousness, we have tremendous amounts of spiritual and scientific evidence, studies of long-term meditators, writings by great spiritual teachers. I'm most familiar with Sri Aurobindo, Rudolf Steiner. All of these folks talk about being able to sustain awareness in sleep. But to do that, you have to make friends with a depth of serenity that most of us have no waking world references for. So tonight, when you descend into sleep, begin to practice not keeping your waking mind or your waking world eyes, but your third eye and your deeper mind open and aware of the experience.